Welcome. I'm Michael Bickert. Thanks for joining me today as we explore concepts with the objective of improving your management skills and growing your business. All right, stop. Collaborate and listen. No, stop the video, pause the video, as I remind you at the beginning of all videos, so that you can grab a notepad and a pen because you want to make a commitment to yourself that you'll jot down something, an action item, something that you will implement in your business today. That's what it's all about. We have to implement to drive our business forward. Today, I want to explore a concept that came up in a conversation I had the other day, and that was being the boss. Perhaps you have got into business for yourself because you enjoy being the boss, or maybe you know somebody who's in management or owns a business primarily because they love being the boss. Perhaps they love the autonomy, and that's a great thing. I think it's wonderful that people have a variety of reasons for getting into business, and not the least of which is that freedom and the autonomy to do things your way. And then I sort of started reflecting on it and thinking about it, but are you really the boss? And can that be a liability, sort of the way of thinking about it? And I'm going to challenge you to look at, as a manager or an entrepreneur, as a business owner, what does being the boss mean? What does it entail? And how do you look at that? So first I want to share this anecdote. I had a conversation with someone the other day who attended a business with the intention of acquiring a couple of products that were new, and or they were new to this person, and was the first time he needed to purchase these items. And there were limited places to be able to get this. Amazon would be an option, but the location dealt with both wholesale customers and retail customers, and it was not particularly convenient. As we think about those things which intrinsically add value to a product or service, convenience was not high on the list on this one. There wasn't value in having to sort of drive across town. And then the experience that was relayed to me was that the person who the customer dealt with identified himself as the owner, and he was described to me as, well, he wasn't rude, but he was very terse and abrupt in his communication style. And right away, when the customer asked for one of the products that he was looking for, the second one would be moot without the first one. So I never even got around to that. But the person said, oh yeah, wouldn't that be nice? I'd like to have that too. And the idea was that this was on back order and has been. And there was almost an inference that the customer was stupid for not knowing that. Now, we can't assign motives to anyone in how they communicate and what's going on in their mind. It could have been this guy's personality. And as I mentioned, he identified himself. He said, I own this location and the nearest one over. And there were only a handful of places that you could get this particular product. And he said, you're not going to find it. And so the customer said, can I leave you my information so that you can, and he cut him off right there. He said, there's no sense in you leaving your information. I don't know when I'm going to get it. And he actually did take the time to refer him to the competition, which seems like a strange thing to do when the customer is offering to be patient and give you follow-up information. Anyway, without getting into all the details, this particular guy, as I say, identified himself as the owner of that business and the nearest one. And as I heard this story, I thought to myself, this guy's not going to be in business for very long. Now, I think he has been in business for quite a while, and we're going to see many traditional businesses fail in the coming years. There's a lot of things happening, but you can't get away with treating customers that way. This guy probably trained himself to be able to get away with that, and he thought he's the boss. In his world, he's king, and everybody around him knows that he's the boss, and they treat him a certain way. And he kind of maybe becomes, forgive the expression, lazy in his communication style. He doesn't go out of his way to really influence people and make them feel, like have a pleasant experience. And we know that the customer experience is, I mentioned convenience wasn't big in this particular interaction, but the customer experience, which is the second intrinsic value factor, was also lacking because the owner himself had a really poor communication style, did not come across as friendly, did not try to solve the customer's problems. And one of the things I thought of is, well, this guy has no idea who it is standing before him who is asking for something. He's thinking of this as a simple transaction. It would have amounted to, I don't know, but less than $200. Let's call it $200 just to make it easy. And he probably thought, that's not, maybe his profit margin on that wouldn't have been that great or whatever. But you never know who it is standing in front of you, who it is that's engaging you as a customer. Have you been there? Have you, as a customer, engaged with somebody and you thought this could mean a lifetime new customer for that business? And you never know. You need to assign great deal of value potential to every new customer standing before you, and treat those people like gold. And they're not necessarily always standing in front of you. Many of you do business. You are engaging your customers digitally through your websites and through other forms of digital communication, such as email and web forms and that kind of thing. But the key here is we need to make sure we have a good customer experience. Now, I'm sort of going off track here. I want to get back to the person and why I would say that guy's business is in real trouble. That guy thinks he's the boss, and perhaps he wasn't ordinarily wouldn't be the person who was at the counter or who would greet the customer. These are strange times, and maybe he's had to lay off a few people. But whatever you have to do in your business, you now have to make sure that you go back and ask yourself if you're doing the right things to thrive in business and create value and a pleasant experience for your customers and everything. And this guy clearly wasn't. Again, we can't assign value to how he was coming across. We don't know what his motives were. He may have thought in his mind that, this was just matter of fact, and he was sharing the facts with the customer and there's nothing he can do about it or whatever. But you can't behave that way. So I'm asking you to do some introspection. Look at, are you ever off your game? Perhaps you have to answer the phones, or occasionally you have to respond to a chat message or a customer support ticket because your usual team is not available. And are you representing your business the way that you expect your people to? I think being the boss is a liability sometimes, because maybe your ego gets in the way and you think, I'm used to getting the respect. This guy should know I own the place. You can't complain about me. There's no one who will hear your complaint. I think people will probably dismiss what I'm saying. I wouldn't have taken the time to record a video if I haven't observed this time and again, including in myself as the boss on more than one occasion. I've looked back at an interaction I had with another stakeholder, including customers, and I thought, wow, I wasn't at the top of my game there. There were several people on my team who would have handled that better than me. And should I have done that? Just even the way I maybe approach a customer or something like that, where it's like that was not the best first impression to make. And so you have to look at these things, because as the boss, you can be always an asset to your business, or sometimes you can be a liability. And really, who is the boss? I mean, the customer is kind of the boss when you think about it. The customer, if we don't conquest new customers and retain customers, we're going to be out of business. So you may be the manager, you may be in charge, you might be the head honcho, so to speak, in your business, but the customer is king. And the customer is going to be the primary stakeholder out of all the stakeholders who determines whether you're going to thrive or not. And I just see that some people who've been in business a really long time maybe overlook that. And there's newer businesses coming out, bigger players. I mean, Amazon has been around quite a while, but not in the way that they are these days. Now they are ubiquitous. They're in everything. They have all products and services available. It's not books like it was decades ago. Or it's not just books, rather. And so people who maybe thought, well, they have a niche. This particular anecdote that I shared with you, this guy has a bit of a niche product. Like, as I mentioned, there was only a couple of suppliers in a city of over 1 million people that provided this particular product. And yet, when I heard this story, I decided to just look up on Amazon, and sure enough, the product was available from Amazon immediately. And could have been, it wasn't overnight shipping, but could have been shipped and received within a few days. And now I didn't know whether or not, you might think, well, why didn't you check that to begin with? Well, the customer, in fact, did check that, but because it was a first experience purchasing this product, wanted to sort of check around and see what are the prices. And I thought there might be an opportunity, or the customer might be able to save some money in engaging a local business. And then, yeah, without getting into the details, there was some rationale behind checking the local provider. And yet Amazon had the product available. And it turns out, the end of that story, by the way, is that the customer did go to where the competitor was referred to. And that person was much more pleasant, did report, yes, everything's on back order and everything, but I should be able to help you out within a couple of weeks, and did agree to take down customers' contact information, and so much better. So that person is setting themselves up for future success, where the first person that I mentioned, that owner of a couple of locations, was setting himself up for failure. And I have a feeling, without being there, without meeting the person, this guy's probably been in business a real long time, and he's become accustomed to communicating in a particular way that he thinks will work. It's not going to work going forward. I want you to evaluate your current processes, your communication style, your word tracks, everything, all your logistics, your production. You have to look at things and ask yourself, what is changing out in the market? And being the boss in and of itself does not insulate you. In fact, I've made that point. I have that video, Have You Hugged an Entrepreneur Today? Because I truly believe that, I make the statement in there that the most important thing for a thriving economy is for the proliferation of many small, medium-sized businesses. And I believe in that statement. And yet we all act in our own self-interest. So each person is going to deal with whatever business is going to solve their problems, serve their needs the best in their own self-interest. You have to sort of recognize what it is that you're good at and what you're not good at. And as the boss, focus on your strengths. If you're not particularly great at customer service, then maybe try to avoid those face-to-face interactions or any kind of one-on-one interaction with the customers. All entrepreneurs, everyone in management should develop some customer service skills. But I do understand you can still be successful lacking that, as long as you mitigate that by having people on your team who are responsible for that part of the business. Who is the boss? So we've said that the customers are the boss. Think of all the stakeholders. I mean, you might have business partners, but what about your staff? What about your team? When you are in business and you enjoy being in management and being the boss, is that an asset to your team, or is it a liability to your business because you are communicating in a way that your team doesn't appreciate? Are you going out of your way and understanding that without a good team, your business will fail? Remember, you act in your own self-interest. I get that. And doing so means you need to treat your customers well, and you need to treat your team really well also, so that your business will thrive, and that's best for you. And so you might say, in a sense, your team is the boss in some circumstances, in some ways. And the key here is every stakeholder, They have vested interest. They have a stake in the success of your business. And if, as the boss, you are communicating in a way that is a liability to the overall business, then I would strongly encourage you to change that. Also, what about the government? I was thinking about this recently. You know, the government is often the boss, which is, I've got a video on that as well, and central authorities and why they're inherently flawed. But the government has a major stake in your business. I mean, I'm not sure where you were watching this from and what particular geographical location or country, but you know, if we say that your corporate income tax is 10 or 20%, and you know, there's the tax rate, and then there's the effective tax based on deductions and that kind of thing. So let's be conservative and say it's 10%. And then that was all the government had, then you would say, well, the government has a 10% interest in my business. They're a stakeholder as well. But then, of course, to extract any money out of your business, let's say you're profitable, you have to either pay yourself a dividend or you have to pay yourself a salary. And then that's personal income tax. And that's maybe 30%, some of you 40% of that is going to the government. So you can be paying a great deal of the proceeds of your effort from your business to the government. They're major stakeholders. I've heard it said that all they are doing is they are paying you a management fee to run their business. So, you know, maybe a cynical way to look at it, but it does frame things a little bit different. You have to consider, you know, being the boss. I have this great respect for entrepreneurs who risk everything to contribute to society in their own self-interest, but it does contribute. They don't do it necessarily to contribute to society. That isn't the way they're doing it, but they understand intrinsically without contributing to society, they won't be successful. Great deal of respect for people entering into entrepreneurial endeavors and business ownership. I'm challenging you as a manager, as a business owner, to consider, are you communicating with other stakeholders? Are you framing things in your mind and understanding that the success of your business has to rely on so many other factors, so many other moving parts, so many other stakeholders, really? And that is critical. And so going into things just with the idea of, well, I'm the boss, can be a really troublesome way of looking at things. The key is, if you like being the boss, if you like your freedom and autonomy of owning your own business and managing things, then bear in mind that the boss has to recognize the other stakeholders are critically important to the success of his business and communicate and behave in a way that is conducive to sustainability, viability of your business, and greater success by promoting those other stakeholders and lifting them up, not driving them down, especially, for goodness sake, your customers. And ask yourself, really today, it's always about reflection, right? Look at things and ask yourself, are there instances where I'm letting things, because I've been able to do it this way for so many years, and because of my ego, because I'm the boss, I am not on my best. I'm not putting my best foot forward. And what do I need to do to change that? That's where we're going to leave it today. Leave a comment. And I don't know if you could relate to this story at all, or if you've had circumstances and similar sort of situations occur where you're the customer and or you're the boss and you weren't particularly thrilled with how the engagement with the customer or other stakeholders went, even staff. Leave a comment. Let's learn from one another. Perpetual Refine.